This is Fortus, and you're watching Guns N' Roses Central.
Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Guns N' Roses Central. And let's get started with this week's news. So starting off this week, Slash has been doing some interviews to promote his upcoming project with Myles Kennedy. And he, of course, talked a bit about Axl and the possibility of new Guns N' Roses music. So he went on to first praise Axl Rose for his professionalism on the Not in This Lifetime tour. When the band was stopped in Iceland, he gave an interview to The Times, which I think is a UK newspaper. Basically, Slash described Axl as so professional since Guns N' Roses were formed in 2016. The iconic Welcome to the Jungle Rockers also talked about the Not in This Lifetime tour. So speaking about Rose's punctuality, which has always been an issue with fans over the years before the reunion, he told The Times, there was a rumor going around that we would give him, referring to Axl, an ultimatum, but Axl actually showed up on time from rehearsals onwards. It was a trip for me because we had a lot of issues with that back in the 90s, but he came in so professional and in great spirits even after he broke his foot and did the first two shows in the chair. He also talked a bit about the future of the band. He said he kind of left that open, saying that a lot of the time before they reunited was left overcoming the BS with Axl that has sort of left him in an unexpected position. He said, there's not a lot for me to say about it, except that it's been a huge effing weight lifted off my shoulders. As soon as we started rehearsals, Axl and I got past a couple of decades worth of BS and found camaraderie again. He also said it was only meant to be 2 shows and a couple of warm-up gigs, and now we're touring the world. His comments came basically after the Star hinted at the possibility of the band working on new material. So he told Eddie Trunk a couple weeks ago that they've talked about a new record. He thinks everybody wants to do it, and we'll just see what happens. He said, we've been busy running around the planet. Now, Slash gave another interview to Classic Rock Magazine that's due out on newsstands August 21st, and he talked about a little bit more about new music. He said there's no shortage of ideas. With Guns, we've just started to touch the surface of what that's going to all be, so I haven't really fallen into that groove yet, he told Classic Rock. I think everybody thinks it's a good idea referring to new music, and everybody would like to do it. There's no shortage of ideas from everybody involved, but we've been so busy on the road that there really hasn't been time to go and sit down and go, okay, we're going to make a record. In the same interview, he talked a bit about working on new Guns material versus working with Myles Kennedy and the Conspirators, and which riffs he would come up with, which band he'd basically write them for. So Slash suggested the touring cycle for his work with the Conspirators could cause a bit of delay in the writing process for any potential Guns N' Roses work because of his focus will be on the Conspirators. He said when Guns N' Roses started doing its thing on the Not in This Lifetime tour, he continued, then the kind of writing I was doing was actually more tailored towards Guns because that was the environment I was in. When it comes down to it, a riff is a riff. It could work in either context. With the Conspirators, anything I come up with, Myles Kennedy will come up with something, and that's why it's such a diverse record. With Guns, you have no idea where it's going to go either, so it's really hard to focus on one or the other, but I feel like while I'm out with Guns, I'm thinking about gun stuff. When I'm out with Conspirators, I'm thinking of Conspirators. So going back now to the beginning of the video, you guys saw Richard Fortus give us a shout out. I want to thank Benjamin once again. He was on our podcast a couple weeks ago. So he was at an event that Richard Fortus was at in Chicago at the Chicago Music Exchange. So he was just there with some local friends, and Benjamin was able to go say hi to him and got him to give us a shout out as well. So I want to thank him once again for doing that. And then in other news, we have Guns N' Roses superfan Jimmy Fallon. He was at a party in the Hamptons, and he belted out some Sweet Child of Mine after drinking quite a bit. So TMZ posted a video on their channel. I've linked to it down below if you guys want to go check it out. Personally, I hate Jimmy Fallon. I could never stand the guy. I used to be a huge fan of SNL, and I remember when he was on the show, he could never hold a straight face in a skit, and he would always basically break character in the skit. And I'm not a big fan of his talk show. I mean, his writers don't really do anything. They basically just get celebrities to come on and play games, and I'm not really a big fan of that kind of comedy. But go check out the article if you guys want to see him drinking and singing Sweet Child of Mine. You guys might remember he introduced Guns N' Roses at the 2002 MTV Video Music Awards, and he said repeatedly he'd love to have Axl on the show. We've also got some Duff McKagan news. So a couple weeks ago, we reported that Duff McKagan voiced his support for the Seattle venue, the Showbox, which is probably going to get ripped down in place of a new condo development. Well, he's been joined by a lot of Seattle musicians, including members of Pearl Jam, Chris Cornell's daughter, Macklemore, and literally almost hundreds of others to voice their support to keep the Showbox in its current location. And he actually released a new music video. Sorry, not a music video. He released a video on Facebook showing his support with the hashtag #SaveTheShowbox. So it's got about 20,000 views. I've linked to it if you guys want to go check it out. It's about like a 32-second long video or 40-second video, and Duff just kind of talks about the Showbox and what it means to him. And then there's some footage inside the venue as well. We've also got some Steven Adler and Matt Sorum news. So both drummers were spotted attending a show that the band Foreigner was holding, and they were photographed together. So you can see this photo of Matt Sorum and Steven Adler along with Jason Bonham. This is something that Steven posted on social media earlier this week. Now, this next news story caught a lot of people off guard, and it even surprised me too. So in that same Times interview I referenced earlier, there was a little snippet that Slash talked about what he's up to. So the article says Slash's life may still be driven by rock and roll, but the drugs, booze, and wild adventures are a thing of the past. These days, he leads a relatively stable existence in Los Angeles with his 2 sons with ex-wife Perla Farrar, his girlfriend Megan Hodges, and his pinball machines. Slash was quoted as saying, "I'm working on a Guns N' Roses pinball machine, but I'm not a big collector. They take up too much space, and the missus is always like, really?" So if you guys remember, back in 1994, Data East released a Guns N' Roses pinball machine, and you can still find it online for about $5,000 to $7,000, but of course it's quite old. And I would be curious to see what a new Guns N' Roses pinball machine would look like, whether it would just feature the 3 main members, because if you've seen some of the other merchandise they've been putting out, it's only been featuring Axl, Slash, and Duff, like those Funko Pops that came out, the slot machine game that came out as well. So as we get more information on the pinball machine, guys, I'll let you guys know. So some other news stories that happened this week is that Guns N' Roses will be holding a drawing contest to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Appetite for Destruction, which of course was last year. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but they announced on social media that they want fans to design a poster to celebrate the album's anniversary. The winner will be announced on September 21st, and they have a whole website that shows you details on how to enter. You can't really have any copyrighted material, but the one grand prize winner will receive $500 plus an Appetite for Destruction Super Deluxe 2LP vinyl cassette and cross from the Locked and Loaded box set. And they also said that members of Guns N' Roses will be determining the grand prize winner, which basically means that either Richard Fortus, Dizzy Reed, Frank, or Melissa will be probably choosing the winners. So they said at the end of every week, one weekly winner will be chosen as an honorable mention to receive an Appetite for Destruction, 2LP vinyl and cassette, and then these winners will also be eligible for the grand prize. So according to the rules, your artwork must be themed around Appetite for Destruction album. You must create art with the song titles, lyrics from your favorite songs, or reimagine the original album cover. Whatever you do, make sure it's creative and make sure it rocks. So you also have to include a brief description of your design and any cool GNR stories you have, or simply tell us your favorite song off Appetite for Destruction. You could even get featured on Guns N' Roses social media pages. So they've also released some contest support files that you can use. And then if you guys want to read more about it, you guys can also check the link down below. They also said it's important that they're looking for illustration-based work, so avoid relying too much on photographs. We want your design to be original, unique, and indicative of your own style. So go check it out. I know a couple people have said they're going to enter already. We also had Guns N' Roses' former manager and Grey White manager Alan Niven pen an open letter to fans and the media. So he didn't talk too much about Guns N' Roses. He talked a bit about Miles Kennedy. He talked about how Great White has just chosen their 3rd singer, and as one of the main composers of the band's material, do you have any thoughts of this matter? So he gave his opinion. He talked a bit about Miles Kennedy filling in for Axl. He said replacing singers in an existing band is the most difficult of transitions. How do you follow a great singer who has indelibly fixed the song in its consciousness of the audience? For example, my heart always went out to Miles Kennedy when he performed with Slash. The audience wanted to hear those Guns N' Roses songs, but really, how do you supplant Axl? It can't be done. Miles did his best with patience and grace, but it was an awful position for an artist to be in. He talked a bit about Axl DC as well, but if you guys want to read the entire letter, I've linked to it down below. We also had an article published by Kerrang magazine that debated whether Guns N' Roses should release new music. So 2 of the writers, one was for new music being released, the other one was against music being released. It's a pretty long article, so if you guys want to check it out, I've linked to it down below in the description box. Then finally, there's an interview that was done recently with the band Nothing More. They opened Guns N' Roses' show in Barcelona, and they talked a bit about what it was like supporting Guns N' Roses. So their lead singer, Johnny Hawkins, gave the interview. He said, "We played the soccer stadium, or I guess football stadium is the correct term, God, that was insane. It was basically a stadium full of Guns N' Roses fans, and Volbeat was there as well. We've gotten a tour with them in the States in the past. They're great guys, great performers. GNR were actually a lot better than I thought. I'd never seen them with the full lineup before. I'd seen Axl Rose with some other players, so when I saw the full lineup, they were just smoking. They were very dry. They were very driving, very high energy. Surprisingly, I didn't know what to expect of a band that's been around as long as they have and done what they've done and had the history that they have had with each other. I don't know how cohesive it would feel or look. To feel it live, especially in Spain, I think something about Europe, sometimes they just get more into it in a certain way. There's a little less inhibition or a little more love for the purity of music. I think in the States, maybe it's just the nature of our country. Sometimes it's very fad-driven, so people get real into who's cool or who's popular rather than just loving the music for the love of it. When I was looking around, there was a pure enjoyment in almost every single person you could see. In the States, those are the pockets of the people, and they're like the crazy ones. Whereas there, it's everybody, which is a really cool vibe around. Guns N' Roses was amazing. I was most impressed with the guitar playing. Both sides, they were just smoking through everything, hitting every note clean, referring to Richard and Slash. So that does it for this week's news, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys have a great week. I'm going to be releasing a bunch more True Story episodes from Use Your Illusion 1 coming up. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and go check us out on GNRCentral.com for the latest Guns N' Roses news. And go support us on Patreon if you want us to continue making videos just like this. Take care.